Hi guys, welcome to Polyphonic Tarot. Today I'm going to be doing a quick reading for Dan. Dan said I could use his name in the video, so Dan, I'll be calling you Dan through the video. Thank you again for your purchase, and thank you also for your patience through the holidays. Obviously, I have not been doing much reading because of the holidays, so I'm a little bit behind. But anywho, today we're going to be doing a Celtic Cross for you today, looking at your career situation. Since you gave me a choice of either career or romance, I decided to go with career because you said the career choice was possibly in music, and as that's something that obviously appeals to me quite a bit, I thought I would do a reading about that. Alright, so I've already shuffled, I've already invoked, and done all that good stuff. Using your significator again as the Knight of Discs, as we did in all your previous readings. And we're just going to go ahead and start. So covering you is the Devil, and crossing you is the Four of Cups here. And then I like going this way, honestly. Maybe because I was raised Catholic and that's how you bless yourself. I don't know. It just feels weird to me going around. I know that's how some people do it, but it just, yeah. Okay, so grounding the situation, or the basis of the situation, is the Two of Discs, and in the past is the Eight of Wands. A possible outcome, or sort of the best possible outcome or direction that you could alternatively lead the situation in, is the Knight of Swords, and in the immediate future is the Eight of Cups. And then up the side we have the Ace of Wands for your perspective, Three of Swords for your environment, the Aeon for your hopes and fears, and the Ten of Cups for your overall outcome. Okay. On the bottom of the deck is the Hermit, followed by the Ace of Discs, the Five of Discs. Okay. Alright, let's see what we've got. I get the sense that you are feeling very industrious lately. You have a lot of productivity in your spread right now, mainly through the form of the Devil and through the Ace of Wands. You feel right now like you need to do something big, that you need to be more ambitious with your career field and push yourself to do more. Your concerns are primarily materialistic right now, and I think you're trying to find ways of bringing order to your financial situation, your material situation, because for the most part your material situation seems to be dominated by just fluctuation and change, which is pretty normal actually. But at the same time, this is pushing you to feel like there's more you can do, and pushing you to focus very heavily on your material concerns right now. And with that being said, there's also a lot of heavy energy that's coming along with this, and that's sort of moving into your future as well with the Eight of Cups here. And I think all of this is stemming from, we'll talk more in detail about that in a minute, but I think what's causing this sort of negativity that I'm seeing with the Eight of Cups and the Three of Swords in your environment, part of that is connected to the Four of Cups here that we have crossing you, which is representative of whatever obstacle is that you're coming up against in this situation. And I feel that it's mostly a sense of boredom also that's coming into play. You just feel restless. I feel like you just have a very dominant energy right now because you're not, for whatever reason, you aren't fully happy with this kind of moot point that you seem to be in. Between the Four of Cups and the Two of Pentacles, it just seems like you've been going through the motions lately, and for that reason you think that you need to do something that's more more creative or more ambitious or interesting or something, just to kind of add some excitement to your life. in the past, you do have the Eight of Wands in the past. So the influence that's passing away in this situation is this sense of hurry and just a sense of needing to get things done very quickly. There's a haste implied in the Eight of Wands. Also possibly some communication as well. Possibly you've had, maybe bills piling up or something along those lines, and now you need to really address them. Or either way, I think in the past you approached this situation, as far as career is concerned, kind of hastily, and I don't know. I feel like you're sort of walking down that path again by thinking of changing career. Again, I'm not sure if you're entirely changing career fields. Let me bring up your email again for a sec because I want to read that. Okay, pursuit of your interests in a more serious manner, and music in parentheses. Okay, so this isn't necessarily a career change or anything like that. This is just trying to pursue more seriously your music and stuff like that. So that's certainly different. But I still get the sense that there's a lot of ho-hum in your life right now, and you're also by yourself. You don't have anyone right now in your life. You don't have a significant other, and that's just evident through the Hermit and the Three of Swords here. For the most part, you're having kind of a hard time connecting to the people around you, and I feel like you're very lonely right now. And there's just so many cards of isolation in your spread here. Between the Three of Swords with your environment, showing that the influence of people around you is pretty, I don't want to say cold entirely, but there's definitely a disconnect between you and the people around you, and it's causing you some loneliness and some anguish. But there's also the Devil, which is all about him. He's very self-centered and all about I and the ego. And then you also have the Hermit, which is also obviously about being alone and being isolated. Now, on the bottom of your deck, I don't think that this is necessarily a totally bad thing, because it's underneath it is the Ace of Discs. However, we do also have, following that, the Five of Discs and the Hanged Man and the Moon. There's a lot of muck here that you're kind of covering up in one way or another. There's a lot of there's a lot of darkness in this reading. There's a lot of dark, and I don't see it as improving in the immediate future. You have the Eight of Cups as the influence coming in next, and the 8 is worse than the 4. Someone said on a video recently of mine that they disagreed with my definition of the 8 of Cups, because the 8 of Cups in the Weight deck is representative of like leaving something behind that you no longer need. But the reality is that is what the Death card is. That's a totally different card. And in Crowley's deck anyway, Crowley's deck, the Eight of Cups is different, and it has a different connotation. The card is called Indolence, and so indolence isn't about going anywhere. On Waite's deck, it's depicted with the guy walking away from the cups, but the thing is, indolence implies laziness and not wanting to do anything at all. It's also Saturn in Pisces, so it's got a very heavy and very dark energy throughout the whole card. The 8, the essence of 8, the essence of Hod or Mercury, is not really able to shine through with this card because there's so much heaviness and just lackluster. There's no real desire to move or do anything. And so that is an influence that is beginning to enter into your life. It's almost like whatever seeds of boredom you are experiencing now are just going to continue to grow if you don't do something. And I think the alternative choice that you can take is represented by the Knight of Swords up top. And it just means that it's good to do something. If pursuing music is something that your heart is telling you should at least try, then there's no harm in trying. You never know what life is going to throw you when you try to take advantage of whatever opportunities come your way, even if one opportunity doesn't necessarily work out. You never know what will come down the road as a result of you having taken that first step in the first place, So maybe pursuing music for a time being will open up some other doors for you, or maybe you'll meet someone, but I do think that trying something like that wouldn't be a bad idea for you, and would give you a good way of channeling all of this individual energy that you have right now. I think as a musician myself, I can understand how now would be a very good time for you to devote yourself more to practicing, and personally I know I find that kind of meditative and very therapeutic. So with whatever kind of emotional muck that you may be dealing with right now, music might be very good for you, very psychologically healthy for you. And the Hermit may also be indicating that, as well, as this needs to be a time for you to use this isolation productively, and not see it as something to be depressed about or sad about. Use it in a productive fashion, and use it to work on yourself and to grow your own abilities and to discover more about yourself and your own capabilities. Yeah, because you're itching to do something new. Your perspective is the Ace of Wands. You feel like there's something that you could possibly start, a new endeavor that you could possibly begin, but it hasn't quite gotten there yet. You haven't necessarily taken that first step. And I think the Knight of Swords is kind of like taking that opportunity and leaping in that direction that you could possibly take. So again, I don't think that I can advocate or would recommend like a career change or anything. But if you're considering music as as more of a daily practice, and as something that you really want to invest some time in and some growth in, then yeah, I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think that that would actually be really good for you. To devote some time to that and to yourself in a healthy way, instead of using time to yourself to ruminate on things at all. Because I almost feel like as you remain isolated, it's going to be harder for you to motivate yourself. Because that's the other thing too, the Eight of Wands, if that's any indicator of the kind of motivation that you've had in the past, the motivation you've had for this has come in spurts, and it kind of goes away. So I think if you're going to do the music thing, I think it wouldn't be a bad idea to try to just stick with it a little more consistently, instead of just kind of doing it in short bursts, because you're not gonna get anywhere with it, honestly. To be perfectly honest, you just won't get very far with it if you don't do it consistently. And again, I don't know how much training you've had or whatever, or what your background is. And I'm not here to coach you in music in any way, but I just get this sense that consistency is required here. Because, yeah, just because I feel like you need to align yourself a little bit better with the energy that is actually taking place around you, which is kind of, it's very flatline, and I don't know. I think you have two choices, really. It's a tricky call all the time, whether you align yourself with the energies that are around you, or do you try to change those energies. And that's kind of the basis of magic, and the basics of deciding whether or not to do magic or to make a change in one's life. And so I guess, if you aren't happy with the kind of ho-humness of your life right now, then it is pretty clear to me that you need some kind of new energy. Now, the other thing too that I haven't addressed yet, because there are two cards I haven't talked about yet, which are the Aeon and the Ten of Cups as the overall result. But of course, I always save overall result for very, very last thing. But the Aeon in your hopes and fears is kind of interesting, because it adds this interesting element of spirit to the whole thing. And that represents your hopes and fears, your aspirations at the moment. And being fire, it is connected to your efforts to kind of just jumpstart yourself, to kind of give yourself a little bit of a boost. And you are hopeful that I think you really want like a life makeover in some ways. You're just very bored. To be very honest with you, I just sense a tremendous amount of boredom and ennui, and I relate. I've gone through periods of this myself, you know. And the Aeon is really the best medicine for it. But sometimes the Aeon, the Aeon being spirit is a very interesting thing, and is very interesting energy as it works in our lives. In my experience with the Aeon is much like an ace. It's not going to trigger, and it isn't always going to activate itself in your life until you make some kind of choice yourself, or until you do something to bring about, to open up that gate. And I feel like if that's the kind of energy you really want to manifest in your life, then this Ace of Wands inclination that you have is very, very important right now. Just in so many ways, not only psychologically and physically, I think, just I get the sense that you need to move and do more. And be more active with this, and don't let yourself get stuck. I think if you start to pursue that, then more of that revitalizing energy is going to come into your life kind of naturally. They're connected to each other. So it's, the Aeon is something that you both have to pray for and work for at the same time. It's a very ora et labora kind of pursuit, because you constantly have to aspire towards it. Because the Aeon also does represent, on a very philosophical level, knowledge and conversation of the HGA, and also just the general, as well as the general current of I guess conscious energy, the general current of energy flowing through consciousness at this time in human history. But it more directly, the Aeon as a symbol of the Last Judgment does represent, to an extent, knowledge and conversation, and connecting with a higher part of yourself. So, you're looking to tap into energies that are much less boring. The energies you want in your life are so much fresher and so much newer, and are very lofty. They're very big ideals about just I don't know. There's just this huge push within you right now to do something bigger and better. You feel, I know that you feel that, because it's in your perspective. It's in your gut right now. The devil is prodding you to be more ambitious, and in conjunction with the Aeon, which is your again your hopes and fears, you're aspiring towards that. So I don't know, your overall result, to kind of wrap this up, your overall result is the Ten of Cups. And this is sort of a logical culmination of this little watery curve that we have here. It's sort of the natural progression from the 4 to the 8 to the 10. And you have all even numbers. Your water cards are so passive, and they only get more passive and more dense as time moves on in the future. So if you don't change anything now, if you don't make this choice, if you don't try to pursue something now, your situation is not going to fix itself, and you aren't going to necessarily find anything to really inspire you or motivate you or cause you to feel anything other than ennui. Anytime soon. It's just not going to manifest. The Ten of Cups is really, and again, wait, people, you can disagree with me, but the Ten of Cups in this deck does not represent wholesome happiness and the full triumph of pleasure and the full success of happiness. It really just doesn't represent that in this deck. That's not how he intended the card to be read, and frankly, astrologically, it doesn't make sense for that card to be read that way. So for me, I always interpret the 10 as kind of like the final, uttermost extension of these two cards, this sense of heaviness and lack of inspiration or excitement that begins in the suit with the 4 really comes to a really bad fruition with the 8, but then finally culminates in the 10. The 10 is really like the 4 quite a bit. And this may have to do with the relationship between 4 and 10, numerologically. Of course, 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 equals 10. But both of those cards have this sense of enjoying the situation, but not really going anywhere. And the 10 is more finite. It's more like you've gotten everything you possibly could get out of the situation. And so if you don't look for other ways to find opportunities and to take advantage of whatever situation you consider yourself to be in, whether it be location, whether it be the people that are around you, or what have you. If you don't do that, then this situation is not going to change for you emotionally. And if anything, you may end up feeling a little bit fed up and frustrated with how this hasn't really progressed. And then you'll be frustrated with yourself more than anything. Because you won't have anyone else to blame, because no one else is involved in this reading at all whatsoever. You know, if the Knight of Swords were to represent someone else, it would represent maybe a friend of yours who's possibly pushing you in this more musical direction, or who has maybe suggested this to you. But again, I don't really think that that's quite what this is getting at. I think, honestly, the biggest connection that the Knight of Swords has to anything is the Three of Swords, which is not, of course, a great connection, but I do think that the connection there is saying that it's an option for you is to take that, again, is to take whatever isolation your environment is giving you, whatever loneliness it's giving you, and do something with it. Just do something productive with it, instead of making your loneliness be a burden or a stopping point, a roadblock of any kind. You know, channel that energy into something productive and good, and just go for it. Even if it means kind of being a little pissed off at your situation, that's okay too. The Knight of Swords is always pissed at something, but you know, he at least has directive and drive, and he's very focused and ambitious, and so that's a kind of energy that you're looking to have in your life. So just go for it. Just go for it. And look for other things too, perhaps. Again, if music isn't something that ends up working for you, which it may not, because in the past it's unclear exactly how much you've really attached to that aspect of your life, you know, the musical part of your life, just because the Eight of Wands is so flighty. But nonetheless, it is something that you could conceivably deepen your connection with, and I think it would really help. Okay, so I hope this answers everything and gives you some things to think about. Again, I guess, let me see if there's anything else I want to tell you about here, if there are any other connections. There's just so much Saturn. So much Saturn. Your life has become very mundane. It's just very mundane, and you do need a creative, spiritual element to kind of bring you out of this. So just ask for it and work towards it, and it will come. Okay? Well, so that's about it. I'm pretty sure. That's about all I've got for you, Dan. Alright, so again, I hope this helps. Thank you again for your patience and for your business, and always a pleasure getting to read for you. So thanks again, and Happy New Year!